Hello and welcome to this week's episode on redox signaling molecules and sleep disorders. So I'm so excited to have you here today. And sleep is definitely one of those subjects that I am super passionate about. For personally being an insomniac for 17 years, never sleeping over 3 hours a night, finally learned to crack the code for sleep. And so there's a lot of things that I've learned that I wanted to share with you. But really, what it all boils down to is why we're sleeping is when our body's repairing and remodeling and laying down the majority of all of our new cells. And so it's important that we get ahead of the destruction that we're creating in our body by actually getting into our sleep cycles and going through that whole process very efficiently if we want to continue to create a younger version of ourselves as our cells are literally remodeling themselves. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And what we're really going to talk today about is all the different aspects of why sleep is so important. So first of all, let me just say, in the United States, 62% of Americans struggle every single night with sleep. Now that's an issue. That's over half the population. When we look at Canada, it's over 40%, and the UK over 36%. These are people that every single night know that they are not waking up refreshed, not getting the proper sleep and the proper healing that they need to get. So what I want to address tonight is how much sleep do we actually need? What are the stages of sleep? How do we track that? How do we know how efficient we are being and how to improve that? Of course, what interferes with our ability to have a good night's sleep? And then how do we improve that picture? So let's start with talking about how much sleep do we need? So when you're first born, you're literally doubling in size every 6 months until you're about 3 years old. So that's why they're sleeping all the time, because when you're sleeping, your body is laying down new cells. So while you're still a child and growing up, and until you're an adult, you're going to require a little more sleep than the adults need. Now, a typical adult, once you're 25 years and older, it's 7 to 9 hours. But the equation is it usually takes 7 to 9 hours to get 3 solid hours of deep and REM sleep. So let's talk about the different stages of sleep. First, we have what's just called light sleep. This is when you can be easily woken, just calling your name in the room or lightly shaking you. This is going to make up about half of your night's sleep is being laying in bed, half asleep, but you're conscious. Okay, this is when your body is processing memories and emotion, and your metabolism starts to regulate itself. So there's a lot of body maintenance stuff going on during your light sleep stage. And this is actually up to 50% of your night is typically light sleep. So then we go into deep sleep. Now, deep sleep is the place when you're much less responsive, as they can shake you and call your name and you're not waking up. You are down for the count. This is when your heart rate usually becomes more regular, your breathing slows down, your muscles relax. And this is when your body shifts into repair mode. Okay. Deep sleep is very much about the body. This is when 75% of all the new cells that are going to be laid down in any given day, it's going to happen in that hour to 2 hours of deep sleep. Now, you're not dreaming at this time. This is when your body is rebuilding, remodeling, replacing cells. And when the majority of your physical body gets healed or grows, if you're still a child, is during that deep stage uh, of sleep, your deep sleep. This is also shown that the more deep sleep you get, the stronger your immune system becomes. Again, this is your body healing, repairing, remodeling. And at any given night, deep sleep should occupy about 10 to 25% of your night. We're looking at least an hour to an hour and a half of deep sleep is what's necessary for you to stay on top of the damage that you're creating and allow that healing to actually take place. So then we have REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement. This is this is when your brain's doing the remodeling and the healing. So if deep sleep is all about the body, then REM sleep is all about the brain. Again, this is processing emotions, and it's helping you with your breathing becomes more irregular. This is helping you prune out all the things that you've seen throughout the day that are really not important for you to save into your short-term memory. And so long-term memory has record of everything you've ever seen, felt, said, done, experienced. Short-term memory, it needs to prune the bushes a little bit and to only leave the memories that were important for the day. And so all of that remodeling, remapping, and pruning, it happens during your REM sleep, where you're actually into some pretty vivid dreaming. And that's when you know that you're getting REM sleep, is if you wake up and you remembered your dreams, or if you could go right back into your dreams, you're right back into REM sleep. So 20 to 25% of your entire night will be REM. Now, once you've had enough REM, your body will just be light sleep for the rest of the night. Now, REM is usually more of the second half of your night's sleep, more so deep is the beginning. So if you have the luxury to sleep in an hour or 2 hours longer than your typical time that you're sleeping, typically you're going to get a lot more REM sleep during that time. And that's very rejuvenating, and you wake up feeling super refreshed. So, how do we track how much REM, how much deep sleep, how much light sleep am I getting in? Well, there's several apps that you could use, but outside of electronics and all of that, just ask yourself when you first wake up and sit up, how refreshed do you feel? Do you feel happy? Do you feel alert? Are you dragging? Do you feel like you're in a bubble? Or is it feet hit the ground and I'm ready to conquer the day? And so a lot of how you're feeling right out of the gate will help you understand if you got an adequate amount of sleep. I personally like to use a device. I use a ring that allows me to monitor all my vital signs all day, all night. And it really gives me some good metrics of what my baseline is. So I know when I try to do something to improve my sleep, if it's working or not. And then if I could duplicate that same evening with whatever I just found or did that's different. So it's important that you do get a baseline. And we have to know how much good, deep, and REM sleep you're getting. If you're not getting 3 hours of that, we need to stay in bed longer until we get at least that. And so tracking your progress, again, super important. This allows us to know what we're doing is working and how efficient I can be today and how much I can push it today. So you want to be consistent with your routine, and you want to be able to track that progress. That's super important. So what drives sleep? What makes somebody want to go to sleep and somebody else not? Okay, well, the first part of what's driving sleep is your hormones. So as you put yourself into a dark room, close your eyes, your brain starts to think, oh, this is time for me to rest. So as soon as that happens, all your body and your brain starts producing hormones that are getting ready to put you into your all those stages of sleep that we just went through. And it's important that you cycle through them multiple times throughout the night. And so those are regulated by hormones. And so it's really important that to have proper hormone release in the right amounts at the right times, that your surroundings around you are very consistent. There's certain things that we can change, other things that we can't. But hormones are really what drives the entire process of your brain getting ready to shift from alert daytime into go ahead and repair and rejuvenate all my cells. And the other thing is the amount of oxidative stress that you have in your body. How many toxins and things you were exposed to throughout the day, how hard you just worked out throughout the day. Just our energy and activity and the wear and tear we put on our body creates oxidative stress. Our cells are creating a waste, that waste builds up. We're not getting enough fluids in our body and enough things to get things moving. Oxidative stress builds up and it builds up. And once there's an imbalance of oxidative stress, that also triggers your brain to say, hey, it's time for us to repair and to rebuild our body, and it's time for rest. Also, during the day, your brain, which remember, your brain cells have one function: send information. That's all they're designed to do, and that's all they ever want to do. But as they're doing that, and you're using your brain throughout the day, multiple brain cells keep getting depolarized after they've worked. And so it's our nighttime when we have enough brain cells that are depolarized. Again, that triggers our brain that it's time for us to rest, repair, and repolarize our brain. So that's what drives sleep. And so this is the two main things that control whether you're going to go to sleep and how well you're going to repair while you're in those sleep cycles. So the purpose of sleep, well, we have two main things as far as our purpose. Number one, as I just mentioned, our brain cells need to be repolarized. So during the day, we're damaging them, we're putting lots of stress, and they're being depolarized. And in order for them to be active again, we need that healing. And so during sleep, deep and REM sleep, our brain is basically being bathed in redox signaling molecules that are supplying it the balance of our reactive oxygen. It's supplying us the balance of our reactive oxygen species and the reduced species to repolarize the cell. So that gives it its charge back, and then it allows the cells then to start working in the morning and sending information like they so desperately want to do all the time. And the other purpose of sleep is for our body to literally repair any of the cells we can and replace the ones that we can't. And as I mentioned before, 75% of all those new cells, they're going to be replaced during sleep. And so it's so important that we get into sleep because we need to have enough of that deep REM sleep, deep and REM sleep for all this remodeling and repair to take place. And so imagine you're driving your car and you never do any maintenance. You see the tire pressure's off, but you don't do anything about it. You see the warning light in the engines coming on, but you don't do anything about it. I still made it to work. You're doing all sorts of things that you're just not taking care of your vehicle, and then eventually it breaks down before maybe it should have. Had you maintained things with the car, you're going to make it a lot more miles before anything breaks down. Well, our body's the same way. It's important that we have enough time in our deep sleep so that we do enough maintenance and enough repair to our cells so they don't break down early. We don't have to replace them at such a young age. We only have so many stem cells that we can keep replacing things with. Let's let them live as long as we possibly can and keep repairing our cells until we have to replace it. And so that's another reason why we need to consistently get a good night's sleep, because so much of that repair and repolarizing happens during those precious few hours of our deep and REM sleep. So what interferes with sleep? Well, there's a lot of things that do interfere with sleep that you can absolutely control. And so these are just basic things that we just believe everybody already knew, and they don't do these things. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a problem sleeping. So if you're doing any of these things are all free and it's pretty much easy to control if it's important to you that we need to get sleep. Number one, no noise. And if you're in some place that always has a lot of noise, whether it's neighbors up and down and around you, whether it's cars passing by, you're close to a street, use earplugs. The more silent you can make your brain, the easier it is for you to produce the right hormones because it believes it's time to sleep and you're not being distracted by all this outside noise going on. Now that includes the TV. A lot of people fall to sleep with the electronics on in their room, and you're confusing your brain. And so we don't want to do that either. We want it to be noise free. We want it to be dark. If there's going to be any light on at all in your room, whether it's from a clock radio or a night light, it has to be a red light. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you see any other color but red, you will burn up all the melatonin and instantly, and now you're awake. And it's going to be much harder to fall back asleep. You want your room to be as cool as possible, where you're warm, wrapped up in the covers and get colder than your body temperature, and you will actually get a better night's sleep as well. Proper pillow placement, in the positions in your bed to maybe alleviate some discomfort that you might be in. So taking the tension off the muscles in your shoulders and your low back by pillows between your legs and wrapping around your arms makes it ergonomically more correct. So you're not always fighting the stress on your spine, switching from side to side and so forth. Make sure that you don't have a lot of electronics in the room. All that dirty electricity and the EMF that you're being exposed to will definitely interfere with those circadian rhythms. And then indigestion, try not to eat anything 4 hours before you go to bed. This is going to allow your body to be healing at night and not trying to digest and break down food. That's going to, again, throw the hormone imbalances off, throw the digestive system off, and it's going to create an imbalance in your ability to get into a sleep cycle and maintain that cycle and throughout the night. And then, of course, pain for a lot of people does interfere. Do things that you can to try to mediate the pain, naturally, ice, again, pillow placement, we talked about that. And usually, if you can find the right position with no pain, you're going to be able to get and stay into your sleep cycles a little bit better. But then we also have other things that are interfering with, the inevitable, why do I not get into these sleep cycles? Well, basically, it's just an inability for your body and your brain to communicate to get into the sleep cycles properly, is what it all boils down to. Proper communication with the brain and the hormones that are driving the entire process is so important for your sleep cycles to exist at the right time for the right time. So a lot of times people just aren't listening to their own body. Their body's saying you're fatigued, you need rest, and we fight that natural process. Now, this is dangerous. Now, sometimes we're stressed, we're worried, we have deadlines at work, we have this crisis going on, and above all else, our body wants to survive. So, it's going to help you get through your crisis. But a lot of times we're deliberately doing that with caffeine, and that's fine, for an occasional incident. But to do that night after night, day after day, burn the candle at both ends, they say, you're staying in sympathetic overload all day long, creating a lot more oxidative stress. And then you're interfering with your body's ability to sleep and repair when it's trying to, so you won't be as efficient. Now, some people have immune system, autoimmune disorders that are imbalanced, that are causing all sorts of things that disrupt those sleep cycles, or blood sugar problems that, if your blood sugar is off, it's going to also throw off the hormones that are trying to regulate your sleep, and adrenal stress and all of that. So you can have some chemistry imbalances disturbing those sleep cycles, but inevitably there's only two things that are going to interfere with the actual healing that needs to take place during the night. And the first one is apnea. Now, there's two different types of apnea. There's one where your brain just kind of forgets to breathe. This is in the brain stem, very important part of the hypervigilant aspect of your brain. It never sleeps. It's always regulating heart rate, your breathing processes. And so when there's a breakdown of these hormone messengers in the brain, then it can forget to breathe. And you're going through lack of oxygen and creates that stress. Now, the other way of apnea is actual obstructed airways. So if you're overweight, carrying a considerable amount of weight, that's going to interfere with that normal airway. And then also, if you don't have the proper cervical curve in your spine, on the side view, you're supposed to have a nice C curve. And when you do, your airway is open all the way in front of your spine. But a lot of us have lost that curve in our neck. And when you do that, your esophagus is literally going from 13 millimeters down to 4. And this is causing you to snore, having a hard time breathing, and that's an obstructed airway. And so it could either be from overweight or just structural misalignment in your neck. But again, your body's not getting enough oxygen. So usually they use a machine like you see here called a sleep apnea machine, which is constantly forcing the airflow in and out. So you can't forget to breathe. And if it's obstructed, it's making sure that you're getting the oxygen through that obstruction as best you can. And so the other way is just insomnia. If you're not able to get to sleep, if you can't stay asleep, if you're waking up too early and can't get back to sleep, and in any one of those three cases, you're waking up and you're just not feeling refreshed, it's going to catch up to you. Okay. You're interfering with the function and the healing that needs to take place while we sleep. So science has shown that in either of those conditions that's interfering with the actual healing process to take place, it's the reactive oxygen species that are outnumbering the reduced species. So you have all these free radicals that are in there, and we want to bring some redox signaling molecules in to neutralize them, and there's just not enough. Okay, and so we're not able to supply enough of the proper opposite charge to neutralize the free radicals. We're not able to get the cells repolarized, and that causes stress. And this stress is going to disrupt the entire process of sleep. All the sleep cycles are going to be on hold because your body shifts into what's called survival mode. And above all else, it wants you to live. If there's a war, if there's a famine, if there's some sort of personal crisis going on with your family, or even a new parent, a new mom can't sleep because their brain's hyper vigilant on, is that baby breathing? Are they okay? Are they going to make it through the night? Okay, all of these things cause survival mode to happen. Now we're not in repair mode. We're in make sure I'm dealing with the stress at hand. And that's not restoring the electrical balance in our brain cells. And so now the cell sits there, it looks pretty, but it's not doing anything. If it doesn't have a charge, it can't send information, receive information. It's just not doing anything. This is going to lead to depression, to mood disorders, to anxiety, because the main function of any brain cell is to send information. And when it can start controlling the balance of neurotransmitters, your dopamine, your serotonin, your norepinephrine, all these neurotransmitters that are sending and receiving throughout the brain, when it can help restore balance of these, you're able to regulate your moods and your mood pathways and your focus, your choice of thought and which pathways you're choosing to use. So not restoring that electrical balance, it's gonna catch up to you. Now, we don't just catch up for lack of sleep. We don't pull an all-nighter and then think, oh, I'll just sleep more on Friday, on Saturday morning and make up for not sleeping on Thursday. You don't make up for it. You just cause more damage. And the more damage you've created, the harder it is to get a leg up and catch up to it. And then even to get on the other side of that sometimes can seem like an impossible battle for so many people. And so if we're not able to maintain that car, we're having to replace the car sooner than we could had we maintained it. So that ages our cells faster if we're not getting consistent deep sleep. Remember, you're not making up for your lost sleep, you're just damaging your brain. And so it's imperative that we get consistent sleep every single night at any cost in order to help your body stay on top of the destruction that's happening every single day. So what are the solutions? Really, we have two choices. You're sitting at a crossroads. You can continue to treat whatever condition that you have, that you're spending all this money on masking a symptom, and think of the future. Where are you going to be 10 years from now? Is treating your issue the way you're currently treating it ever going to get you on the other side of it? Or is it just simply masking solution or symptoms? So we can focus on the future, and what we'd like it to have is our body to actually repair, remodel, rejuvenate, and heal. Then we need to start looking at how to restore the cellular balance of communication. So there's a few guidelines here. Allow yourself time for sleep. Don't push the limits until you're so exhausted every night that you crash. Get a good, consistent night's sleep. Try to have the same bedtime every night. Reduce the stress in your life. If there's things that are just constantly tugging at you and poking you, see if you can eliminate it or delegate it or just let it go. Okay. Reduce the stress. Suppression is the seed of all disease. If you're holding on to stuff, you're not going to be able to get the proper sleep that you need. If you have sleep apnea or if you're overweight, you're going to do your body a whole lot of longevity if you could drop some weight. And you're going to be able to breathe easier. You'll be able to get into those sleep cycles. And so weight loss might be the thing that's holding you back from getting the healing that you actually need. We talked about no electronics and TV in the bedroom. When it's time to go to sleep, close your eyes and let your brain process and fall asleep. Don't let it keep being confused because there's a car crash going on in the background and a chase and then a commercial and so many different types of stimuli that are interfering with the hormone production and regulation that's trying to help you dive into these cycles and just get the restoration you need. I'm one of those that can sleep 5 hours to 6 hours and get somewhere between 4 and 5 hours worth of deep and REM sleep. Now, that took years to be able to master massive amount of healing in the shortest time possible. Most people take 7 to 9 hours to get that 3 hours of deep and REM sleep. But the more tricks that you do that the tips that we've shared with you, the more of those that you can take a hold of, you're going to see all of those metrics of your sleep get better so fast. So don't go to bed with worries. Voice them, get them out, let it all out before you go to bed so you can sleep soundly. And one of the most important things we can do is we can supplement our body with redox signaling molecules. They're going to pass the blood-brain barrier. They're so tiny, they can get right into the brain where we need them to do. And what they're going to do is bring that reactive oxygen and reduced species into those brain cells and bathe them. And it's going to basically give you that leg up on the whole restoration process. It's going to give you a lot more workers on the job. They're going to help repair those cells instead of losing the cells and them dying too prematurely. It's going to also help regulate the cellular communication at every step of the process. Every stage of sleep is dependent on the redox signaling molecules to be able to send and receive information to help your body literally repair, regenerate, remodel, and heal so that we're waking up fresh and we're being the best we can be. So there's no doubt about it that when we have better functioning neurology, when our cells can signal and function better, we're going to get a better quality of sleep and we're going to have far more healing than you can ever have otherwise. So I hope this information helps you. I hope you can take some of this and put it to work tonight and test your own self to see how much sleep am I getting and how can I improve that sleep to make me be the best version of me on the next time around with my next cells. So until next time, I hope all of you have a wonderful evening and make it a great day. Bye now.